This is the MFG Monkey Podcast. We sit down with leaders and innovators in the industry to talk about manufacturing, business, and the stories behind their successes. I'm your host, Dustin McMillan, owner and founder of McMillan Co. All right, today we have on the MFG Monkey the billion-dollar entrepreneur. He is dubbed the Willy Wonka Generation X by the London Observer and Newsweek, the #1 bestseller and author of Billion: How I Became a King of the Thrill Pill Cut. Shaahin is the creator of the herbal ecstasy, the nomotropic, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, pill that sparked the 100% legal smart drug movement. He founded Podcast Cola, the largest podcast agency in the world. He has been on some pretty significant podcasts. Shaahin just released a book called Podcast Famous. This is going to be a great show, folks. Can't wait to talk to Shaahin. Shaahin, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on, Dustin. It's going to be fun.
I really enjoyed your story as I, read all of your stuff, and there's a lot of stuff out there. So, tell the audience a little bit in your own words how you got started, and we'll roll from there.
So I created a designer supplement in the early 1990s during the ecstasy days and during the electronic music days and the electronic music scene. It became a global phenomena. We did over $1 billion in revenue while I was still in my teens. Blew up to be one of the biggest supplements of all time. We were featured in all types of news. I exited that company, moved into manufacturing of digital vaporization devices. It was the first vape company to go public, was my company. Built and designed, developed all the technology for digital vaporization. There moved on to Amazon and looking at the Amazon platform as a way to get products out there into the marketplace, and developed and designed these algorithms for Amazon and just hit it out of the park there. And currently I am in the Amazon space. We've got a lot of physical products. I teach people how to sell on Amazon, and also have a company called Podcast Cola, where we get people on great podcasts just like this.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think we move on and talk about a little bit more in depth how you got started. For somebody to do $1 billion in revenue, I'm very fortunate that I know some very, very affluent folks and successful folks, but I don't know one of my buddies or anyone even close to me that's done $1 billion in revenue in a single year. That's pretty freaking amazing.
Where are you out of? Where are you located?
Right now I'm at my lake house up on Lake Erie, and my company is outside of Columbus, Ohio. So we're in West Liberty, Ohio, kind of out in the sticks. We have 90,000 square feet out there, and lived in Dublin for the better part of 20 years outside of Columbus, Ohio. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So it was, look, I'm in Los Angeles. Have been in Los Angeles since the early 80s, we say. And my family was from Iran, and we left Iran during the revolution. They came here hoping for a better life, better opportunity. And the path to it wasn't as clear cut as one would have hoped.
Sure.
So I decided to go off on my own and to start finding something where I could create wealth. And what I did was I stumbled into the electronic music scene. Through the electronic music scene, I noticed that people were doing all kinds of drugs, particularly one called ecstasy that was very popular at that time, but there was no supply of it. And I decided to produce an alternative version of that back in those days that was legal, that was safe, and it was easy. It was like printing money. And I started, talking about manufacturing, making it in a kitchen, like literally. And I got a girlfriend was making it in her kitchen while her dad was out. We were testing it out on people. And we had just started in the United States, the growth of contract manufacturing. That wasn't such a thing, I think, back in the 80s. In the 90s, there was a whole wave of people who were buying these facilities, and a way of subsidizing their production
Sure.
was allowing contract manufacturing. So I talk about this all the time with people. I really feel like I was at the right place at the right time, because right when I was like, man, how many of these things can I cook up in a kitchen? Like, maybe I can get somebody who's got a production facility that's already making supplements
Right.
to roll my products off the side when off times when they're not making their own products.
Yeah. Well, and today it's
And
very prevalent. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do in your factory?
Contract manufacturing, warehousing, fulfillment. So we make a product for people that need products made. So we're doing blending.
What kind of
and
product?
Fulfillment. One of our main products right now is it is a sodium mixture for the grinding industry that gets put into a machining center that the product deburrs scalpels and different medical devices. So it's very, very cool product. We're doing, taking a formula and mixing it for our customers and then fulfilling it all around the world for them.
So it's like a B2B product, right? So you're really selling it to businesses who need to use that in their process.
Yeah, that's mainly everything that we do. We just set up an Amazon store for a customer that we're kind of dabbling in that. Probably 15 years ago, I sold a product on Amazon and it fizzled out, and we never really messed with it ever again. And then I literally just submitted, hopefully, the final photos today. that will be accepted by Amazon. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, it's really interesting. I talk to people about this all the time because I teach people how to launch companies on Amazon, how to launch products and do it successfully. I've done it, 7-figure products, 8-figure products, sold those companies to big venture-backed companies. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff happens all the time in the Amazon sphere. And the benefit, unlike the business that you're in with Amazon, is for a very small amount of money, somewhere between $10,000 to $50,000. Mm-hmm. You can launch a business that in a couple years could be worth multiple millions of dollars. Sure. Now, people say, well, there's lots of businesses I could do that with. I'm like, really? Like, what's it cost to open up a manufacturing facility?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Millions, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. What's it cost to open up a coffee house?
Sure.
Most people don't know this. It's somewhere between $50K and $500,000 and up.
Yeah.
So what are the chances that you're going to become rich from a coffee house, from a coin laundry, from a little restaurant? Right. In a couple years? Yeah,
and the fact that you can get in front of millions and millions of buyers without very little effort, I mean, that's where the key is at, right? I mean, half your struggle with owning a small company is just putting yourself in front of the people that want your product or want your service. And, hearing your story when you launched it, how you got your product into the market was ingenious, as you were talking about as a kid, and going to one guy, and hopefully that guy liked your product, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And back in the 80s and 90s, contract manufacturing, as you're talking about it today, is not as prevalent. Now how many supplement people do you have out there that they don't make their own product, they don't warehouse it, they don't fulfill it on their own, they're using contract manufacturing?
Yeah, most people, it's really interesting. So a couple things. So point number one to touch on is most people love to hate on Bezos. I love Jeff Bezos.
Oh, me too.
I think he's one of the most amazing people in the last 100 years to hit the planet Earth. And people wonder, well, he's rich for, taking advantage of people. No, he's not rich for taking advantage of people. He is rich because he's helping other people get rich. One of the quickest paths to getting wealthy is helping other people get wealthy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Bezos has done.
Has anyone made more millionaires than Bezos?
Yeah, I don't know, but believe me, we have meetings every year where we meet up in different countries with Amazon sellers, and everybody's doing well. Everybody's doing great. There's nobody at these meetings that I go to that's like, man, things are bad. People have complaints. In any platform, in any market, in any business, you have problems. And it doesn't matter what I realized, Dustin, is it doesn't matter what business you're in. Everybody else's business always looks easier than yours. You're like,
absolutely.
Man, I'm a manufacturer, but dude, if I just didn't have to, have forklifts, that would make things easier. And then the guy sitting next to you is like, he's got some other kind of business. He's like, man, if only I had some equipment, my business is terrible. If I had some employees and equipment, that's what I need. Fact is, every business has its challenges. Amazon got rid of friction in the buying process and the returning process. That was his genius formula. Yep. He figured out how to do that. And then he got rid of friction for us producers, for us manufacturers of things. He said, hey, you guys don't worry about pick, packing, shipping. Don't worry about fulfilling your stuff. By the way, you suck at it. Let me do it.
Right.
And he brought in the top guy from Walmart, poached some guy, allegedly, I don't know if it's true, but got some guy from Walmart who was responsible for all the infrastructure, said, hey, open checkbook, start up a fulfillment house for me, and we're going to do this all over the world. And they did it, and he did it better than anybody else. And he took that friction point away from us. Because if you're a manufacturer, if you're a producer of things, if you're a marketer, you shouldn't have to mess with pick, pack, and ship. You should leave that to the professionals. Mm-hmm. Either leave it to a professional 3PL, or better yet, what better thing than have the platform where you're selling all your stuff handle the shipping? Oh my God. And this is the crazy thing. I was talking to eBay about this back in the day. I was on with a whole bunch of eBay people, and I said, guys, you're going to drop the ball here. Just open up some warehouses. And they kind of tried to do it rinky dinky, and then it didn't work out. And Amazon took over. I mean, like a wave. At a certain point, actually, most people don't know this. eBay was trying to buy out Amazon. They say, hey, man, we love what you're doing. Let us handle it with eBay technology.
Right.
And Amazon was like, nah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Bezos was like, I think we're good. And he got the Walmart guy. He started his fulfillment, and he blew it up. And that's why still to this day, I think Amazon is the quickest path to wealth, but also using leverage, right? Fulcrum, there goes my voice. Using a lever, you can apply a small amount of pressure and have a huge result on the other side. And that's just not possible in many other businesses.
Absolutely. I think that was one of the things that intrigued me about talking to you even more, is that how many times you've reinvented yourself just to keep ahead of, you built this, sold it, built that, sold it. And then now you do a lot with Amazon. You're doing a podcast, hosting firm. And what was the third thing that you were saying that you were doing?
So Amazon is our primary service. So we do offer, I have a consultancy. It's one of the lead consultancies in the country, called AI. And what we do is we take brands and we accelerate them. But I also have a course where we teach people how to do it. And by the way, anybody who's listening to your show, who's interested, can email me directly, and I'll give them the course for free. It's a 2-hour course that teaches you everything A to Z, how to launch a product on Amazon, all the tricks to getting started. And I'll just give that to them for free, because there's nothing I love more than watching people succeed on Amazon. So if it's okay, I'll give out my email. My direct email is darkzess@gmail.com. Or you can find me at podcastcola.com. That's podcastcola.com. You can always book a time with me there. That's my podcast booking agency, where we get people booked on great shows like this.
And if you're listening to this, we'll put all this information in the description, and we do a blog post with it and transcribe it all and all that fun stuff too. So if you're driving and you didn't memorize all that, you'd know where to go get it.
Yeah. And look, I think things have changed since then, right? It's interesting that you're making me think about this, because when I started, there was no internet. So I had to physically go out and find companies. And again, in the 80s, contract manufacturing wasn't really a thing. So I had to convince these producers. I mean, you could get people to do this, but in the 90s, it was just starting, and that's when I was doing it. I had to go to people and be like, dude, you're making vitamin C, right? Like, yeah, we're making vitamin C. Okay, cool. Have you ever made anything else? No. Can you make anything else? Well, we have the stuff. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I got this stuff. You run the pills. Here's the ingredients. This is how you do it. And that's how we did it. But now those barriers to entry are gone. Any human being from a cubicle, from their car, can have anything produced. And even crazier than that, this is a little dirty secret about Amazon that most people don't know. I teach it to my students all the time that are overseas, is a lot of the products you see on Amazon, the people who are selling the product oftentimes have never held or seen the actual product.
Oh, absolutely.
That's how nuts it is.
Yeah. And and if we're releasing too much on the podcast here, but so we've used helium-10 to evaluate products and look at, how much they're sold, how much is in inventory, and the different price points and all those fun things. Is there another platform, or is there a platform that you guys use to find the product that you're going to sell?
So here's the thing. Those softwares are great. I love Helium-10, and that was a brilliant company. That guy made millions just with his analytic software, right? And for people who don't know, Helium-10 is one of several softwares, probably one of the better ones. And what it does is it spies on sales of other companies on Amazon, tells you what they're doing in sales, what their products are selling, and gives you other analytics so that you can judge if it's good for you to launch a product or not. It can also be a tool for product discovery. So that's awesome. Now, here's the thing. To evaluate products and markets takes a little bit more finesse. Why? Because the things that the software knows, the things that the AI knows, there are certain subtleties that make all the difference. And it's those subtleties oftentimes that are the difference between success and failure. And those only come by trial and error or by dealing with experienced people. So I mentor people all the time where they bring products to me and they're like, dude, what about this case? I looked at it on the software. The software shows that it's selling a ton, right? So we look for high volume. Looks like competition is high, and that's sometimes okay. But also that, there's a good markup. And I'll look at it and go immediately like, oh yeah, man, that was like 3 months ago. The software hasn't updated yet. No one's selling those anymore. So if you would have launched that, you would have lost all your money.
Oh shit.
And it's interesting because I think in life in general, a lot of the formula for succeeding is found in these subtle details. So I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a student of it. And you can read all the books about Jiu-Jitsu. And you can watch the videos by these masters on YouTube. And I don't know if you ever watched that stuff. It's freaking amazing. Like a guy whose whole life has been dedicated to Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm a beginner, right? I'm in the learning process of it. These guys are masters. And you can watch the video. And then when you get on the mat to try the technique, it's night and day. Like there's so many details, little details that are missing. And you begin to realize that the success is in those little details that you just have to learn by doing it, by practicing it, or by having that person there over your shoulder going, hey, Shaahin, the elbow goes up, not down.
Right.
So it's a lot like that with Amazon. And in a long way, I'm answering you about those softwares. They're all great. They're amazing tools to have in your toolkit. A better tool is having somebody who is a professional seller, either us or somebody else who's done it, who's created these multi-million-dollar products, Dustin, to coach you and to be able to tell you, hey, man, these are the things you need to do. You will save a lot of money that way.
Yeah. And I love the analogy and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is awesome. And like any other sport, right? You play it your entire life. You don't have to think about raising your elbow. Your brain just does it. And you only learn that from, a guy or girl that has been training their whole life and can coach you through it. And then you have enough reps in where you finally are raising that elbow and now you're off and running. You're consciously competent. And at some point you become unconsciously competent.
Yeah, you're right. And I think about this a lot. When I was younger, I was fortunate enough to have mentors that
Mm-hmm.
helped me get to the point where I am in life now. And I always think the cheapest thing that you can get is education, whatever it costs. And it's like that saying, if I had 100 hours to chop down a tree, it's the guy that spends 99 sharpening his axe
Right.
and
Yeah.
1 hour
Yeah.
chopping down the tree that gets it the best. I kind of feel like there's really something to that.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And I have been fortunate enough to have some amazing mentors in my life as well. And you just learn so much from those people, just doing things like this. And I think that's what inspired me, is just because of the conversation and listening to people that have done things that you either want to do or whatever. You're learning way more than in my estimate than going out and banging your head against rocks trying to figure it out.
It's true. It's really true. And you could hire us, you could pay for it. We do, course, we charge a tuition. We're not getting rich from the course. And we've got our, the 1 hour or 2 hour course that we'll give for free. If people just reach out to me and email me, you'll give the information on the show notes. But you can talk to anybody. If you know people who are professional Amazon sellers, and you can talk them into coaching you, into mentoring you, man, I wish I did that. I mean, we lost so much money before we started making so much money. And a lot of it were mistakes that were preventable had we had known. And I'm sure it's the same with you in the business that you're in.
Yeah. I've made a pile of mistakes that has cost me a pile of money, and you just try not to make those mistakes again, right?
Yeah. The other thing that I really like is, like, so I have a lot of buds too. And whenever they talk about products, everybody always goes to like the sexy thing, right? Everyone's like, oh man, I'm going to make the new like smartphone, the sexy thing, the car thing, that like everybody comes up with like what they think is like the sexy thing that like makes all this buzz. But you're like, no, fuck that. I'm going to make salt that cleans and sterilizes surgical equipment, right? And they probably all go, oh, well, what? Where did that come from? And you're going around, meanwhile, you're hanging out at your lake house, talking to interesting people and living a great life without all the noise. And that's, I think, what a lot of people miss. Like, my life was unusual because I did do the sexy thing and came out with the pill and sold it at the clubs. And I was that kid, right? I had long hair. I wrote a book about it. By the way, if anyone wants to know, the book's called Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. It's on Amazon. You can get it, the audio book. It's actually pretty good. They're making a film on it. If anybody's interested in seeing that, I'd recommend the audio book or the paper book. But after that, I started to think to myself, like, man, I always looking for that sexy product, that thing that everybody wants. And there's so many millions, there billions, trillions waiting to be made quietly in products like what you make. I know guys that make like pool cleaning chemicals, crushing it. I know guys that are making millions with like really rando pet products, like really rando, like nothing. I'm not going to mention them here because I don't want anyone going into their market, but the randomest pet products that you never heard of that people buy. So there's something to that. There's something to being like, hey, what unsexy business can I do to make money? And I think there's people around. We are victims of social media right now. Me and you and everybody in the ongoing generations, right? They're all watching TikTok. They're all watching the girls in the jacuzzi and the Lamborghinis and all the crazy loudness. Yeah. But then you have this nice series of dudes and girls that have quietly made millions and billions of dollars doing things that we have never heard of. And I know a lot of them. That's it. Toner supplies. I know a dude who made his fortune selling freaking toner supplies.
Yeah.
He makes millions of dollars a year selling toner supplies to businesses. Holy shit. Yeah.
And I do love it. And I think you're absolutely right. Once people get over the fact that they want to do something fun, cool, and sexy, and they're focused on fulfilling a need, then the sky's the fucking limit. And just thinking about some of my neighbors here, right across the street, Pool Supplies. Another one of my buddies that's become one of my very best friends. They do temporary heating and cooling, and they're in I don't know how many different markets, and they fulfill a need, and it is so much fun. I never really thought about that, and I always joke with people. I'm like, I don't care if I sell pink flamingos as long as I sell. And
Right.
once you get past what you're selling and you just find a market that you can fulfill a need, then you're off and running.
Yeah, it's true, but you're smart like that, right? You see that. Young people, especially young dudes, full of testosterone, they come to me with these ideas and I'm like, all right, man, that's really cool that you want to do that. But there's a billion other people doing that. It doesn't meet any of the metrics. Yeah, if you hit it, it's going to be very successful. Right. But really, like, is there something else that you can do without all the noise around you? Like we talk about Blue Ocean, Red Ocean. Did you ever read that book?
I have not, but I have heard it. It's in my It's actually
spectacular
on my phone
book.
right
Spectacular book.
Yep.
I think it's like probably over 20 years old now, maybe more.
Yep.
Maybe 30 years old. Where the dude talks about how you get into a market and it's all blue ocean, right? So you can like swim around. Then slowly the water starts getting a little murky, starts getting red because more and more people are coming into that market. So they're always looking for blue ocean products and blue ocean stuff to do. And I think there's really something to that, right? Like how many people, if you think you're going to start a green supplement, how many people do you think are making these green supplements, right? But how many people do you think are making the salt solution to sterilize surgical equipment? Like, are there dudes like just, hanging around waiting to like conquer your market? Probably a couple, but it's not going to be a boatload of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very niche market, and it's totally agree. So, my mind's spinning a million miles an hour now. Thanks. What do you think that you could tell somebody right now to get over their blindness of wanting to go after something cool and sexy that you already haven't?
I think you have to evaluate. There's a great book by a guy named Rolf Dobelli. It's actually one of my favorite books. It's called Thinking Clearly. And in that book, he talks about the 9 logical fallacies, survivorship bias, all the different biases that we can have. Once you know what those logical fallacies are, confirmation bias, survivorship bias, your mind will be blown at how many of them we're susceptible to. Now, it doesn't mean that you become a freaking robot and you go, okay, I'm only gonna, do things that meet the metrics, right? You're not Mr. Spock. But you do have a better understanding of your own weaknesses. And I think at the end of the day, knowing your weakness, knowing your strength, knowing your ethos, and knowing what your story is, what your saga is, what you're all about, makes a lot of sense. I tell people this all the time. I teach it in my Amazon course. If you are doing something, you don't have to be passionate about it. That's bullshit. You don't even have to like it. But it does have to meet the ethos of who you are. Like I know a guy right now who is an awesome dude, a brilliant business operator, has had a lot of successes. And he's telling me, oh man, he's now going to get into TikTok. This dude doesn't have his phone on for most of the day. This dude doesn't go on social media. This dude wouldn't know any of the influencers if they walk down the street and hit him in the head. He wouldn't know them. So can he do it? Yeah. Should he do it? No, it's not part of his ethos. It's not built into the fabric of who he is. And that's a very specific difference. Right? He doesn't have to be passionate about it. Passion is bullshit. That's something they tell people who, when they go, man, why are you rich? And the guy doesn't want to tell you that, dude, I'm just fucking smart. I'm smarter than you. Like, not me, but like you look at a guy like Elon, or you look at like Mark Zuckerberg, and they go, hey man, like, how come you've made millions and I haven't made millions? And he goes, oh, well, it's passion, right? Because it's rude for him to say, dude, I'm just fucking genius. Those guys are all fucking geniuses. They're all brilliant. You look at Elon and your mind is blown. Like him or hate him, politics aside, all the whatever he does aside, there's no one in the last 100 years that's done what this man, the volume of stuff this guy has done. Yeah. Zuckerberg, genius. You look at these guys and they're the next level. And it's funny because I thought about this like in the 80s, right? You remember we had breakdancing? And I'm 49. How old are you, Dustin?
44. Yeah, I had a cardboard box and I used to spin around a little bit as a kid.
Did you really? Yeah, we did that, right? Yeah. And you watch those 80s ones, right? You watch them break, pop, lock, whatever it was that they did.
Right.
Obviously, I am not a hip-hop break dancer. So I will watch what they did and I'll go, oh, wow, man, that's amazing. And then you looked at it in the 90s, right? And you were like, holy shit. These guys have done, there's a whole new level of it.
Right.
We look at it now. If you want to watch any of the videos, and again, I am not like a breakdance expert, but when I watch the videos of what these kids are doing now, the evolution of that, it's night and day. Like they're doing stuff that doesn't look like it's real.
Right.
And they didn't have that. It
doesn't even look possible.
How is that possible? And also our entrepreneurs with the advent of the internet, of AI, of social media, of the world getting smaller, of all these things have gotten smarter. So these guys are next level of genius to who we were back in the 80s, right? I mean, we might have had some of those old school sensibilities as far as who our best entrepreneurs are, who our best capitalists are. But now these guys are next level. So when you talk to one of these guys, and I've talked to a lot of them. I've talked to Bezos in the past. I've talked to a lot of these guys who are now some of the wealthiest people of all time in the world. And you're a young kid and you ask them, hey man, how do you do it? They're going to be like, oh shit, I'm being recorded. Fuck yeah, it's passion. But that's bullshit. It's got nothing to do with passion, right? They're just smarter than you. They've worked harder and they're smarter, right? You can compensate for not being as smart. I'm not as smart as a lot of the people I hang out with, but I do know that I work harder and I have the capacity to work harder. So you can compensate for that gap by working harder, which is what I do because I know I'm not as smart as them. But
it's so true. In sports, we're talking about that all the time. You could be an average athlete, but work your ass harder than everyone else, and you're going to accomplish more. People want you on your team. You could be the best whatever player in the world, and if you're fucking lazy, nobody wants to be around you.
That's right. And it's the same thing with Amazon. If you don't have to be 10 times better than the other brand. You just have to have a hair's edge from the other people. It's like running the race. I was watching the Olympics. Man, the guy that gets first place and the other 6 guys, they're not like 100 feet behind each other. They're not 10 feet. They're not 5 feet behind each other. Yep. They got to show that video, and then they got to get AI to look at the hairline thing between him and the last guy. So the guy that won and the guy that lost is like a fraction of a second.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And we just talked about this the other day. It's incremental differences, like you're saying. It's just the tiniest, minute. You're just looking to move the needle just that much more than the other person.
Yeah.
You do have my mind spinning. I like it. So what you have another book that you have too. You have what are the 2 books? Tell me. I'm sorry, I forget.
So my first biography that came out was called Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. And again, that's on Amazon. It's on Audible. It's a great audiobook if you guys want to hear it.
Yep.
Good production. And the latest book that I released about a year ago is called Podcast Famous. And that book teaches you how to harness the power of podcasts to sell your product or service by being a guest on podcasts like this, by perfecting your story. And most people are like, man, I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to all these shows. I would love to be a guest, but I just don't know how. And that's what we do. So I teach you how to do it yourself, but also I have this agency that we started a few years back called Podcast Cola. And our clientele are some of the best, the who's who, and people just starting out, people that are like, hey man,
Sure.
I've got this amazing story and I want to get it heard. How do I get on podcasts? And we do it for you. It's a guaranteed service. We have a dedicated team of publicists that are mind-blowing. For anybody who wants to check that out or check the book out, I'll send you a free copy of the book if you get a hold of me. It's podcastcola.com. That's podcastcola.com.
Perfect. And it is interesting because we've had more publicists contact us in the last, I don't know, 60 days than I ever have, and it's pretty flattering. I mean, your company contacted us, and I'm like, holy shit, how do we end up at this point where, every day we have, people contacting us and wanting to be on the show, and it's flattering as hell. And it just started out as just a brain fart idea during COVID because I was bored and, stuck at home and wanted to talk to cool people.
There you go. You're doing something right when the world starts noticing, right?
Well, and I just love learning from people like you, and that's like, it's free education for me. And hopefully, we have enough listeners. We have enough listeners that they want to, they get something out of it as well. And the more that we can help other people move their needle, like you said, the more fulfilling it is for me. And I think every guest that we have on.
Yeah. One of the best ways to make money is help other people make money. One of the best ways to learn is to help other people learn. One of my martial arts instructors has a big sign up, and he always teaches us the best way to learn something is to teach it. And I tell that to people all the time. I teach that to my 10-year-old boy. I'm like, dude, you want to learn something? Go out there and teach it. And he does. Yeah. He goes, he watches YouTube videos, he figures out how to do stuff. And then he'll find one of his buddies, dude, come over. I got to teach you how to make Nikes this way or that way, or I got to teach you how to fish. And he does that. And it's fantastic.
It absolutely is. Hey man, I could probably talk for a long time. I know that we had an hour slotted for this, and we burned a lot of it, just technical issues. But I would love if there's something else that you want to talk about here in the future that, we really dig into the weeds maybe a little bit or something else. But I've had a lot of fun. I think your story is unbelievable. And, just for, to figure out what you figured out before, you had to physically knock on doors and call people. And most kids today are afraid to even pick up the phone, let alone, call as many people as they possibly can to figure something out. They want to hide behind their computer and figure it out, which, you can do also, but, pick the phone up, make a call.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot to unpack there, but it is a swipe generation. They want to be able to swipe right and swipe left and have their ideal product delivered to them and make it think that it's their choice, but really it's the algorithm choosing for them.
Absolutely.
And that'll be a topic for us to have another conversation. And I'll talk to you offline, but I think I got some folks for you to talk to as well.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. Absolutely just flattering having you on, and I love it. So I can't wait to learn more.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, great to meet you, Dustin.
You too, man. Thanks everyone for joining us for this episode of MFG Monkey. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please email them to us at info@mfgmonkey.com.